What's up guys, Ruppy here, welcoming you to week 4 of UNPL Season 6. I really don't want to talk too much about last week, to be perfectly honest. Nothing against Golden Guy and the smart prep he brought to run right through us, but between that and all the DCs that left me understandably frustrated, it's probably for the best if we try to put that behind us and keep looking forward to a hopefully brighter future. That said, I do still recommend you check out my video from last week, mostly because I made some transactions after the game that are live for this week, and I discussed them at the very end so as not to take up too much time explaining them this week. That said, we move from facing one Philadelphia team to another, as this week our Columbus Swoo Owl House edition face off with the Philadelphia Ttars, coached by Grumm. Now, Grumm has made this crazy declaration that if he does not win this season, he is leaving the UNPL forever. While I respect the high stakes he's put forth as a wrestling fan, no offense if you're watching Grumm, but I kind of personally disagree with the extra pressure you're putting on yourself over something that's supposed to be a game. Heck, my team's still struggling to pull everything together right now, and yet I'm still enjoying the games I'm playing. Regardless of how much I'd prefer if Grumm reconsiders his decision, his team is certainly well equipped to notch him a victory over me if I'm not careful. Deoxys is frail but incredibly fast and powerful, Sneasler has the potential to be an even faster unburdened threat than our Holucha, and he has female Indeedee for his own terrain support if he so chooses. Volcanion and Orthworm are Grumm staples that he certainly knows how to use, Tinglu and Deoxys are tanky hazard setters that could cause some problems. Needless to say, Grumm's got plenty of options for how to handle us. Orthworm is also one of his Tera captains, along with Electabuzz and Oricorio. And for the record, Grumm can use any form of Oricorio, so that's 4 birds I have to keep in mind for the price of 1. Obviously, Sneasler is a huge problem if I let it get going, which is why we're going to address that with the new and improved Amity Blight. Amity's change into an Overquill honestly couldn't have come at a better time, because Intimidate is invaluable for not only trying to keep Sneasler in check, but also allowing her a better chance of dealing with mixed or physical sets of Deoxys. Not to mention her Dark Poison typing really hinders Bramblegast. Crunch is my only stab for this game to address both the psychic threats as well as potential Tera Ghost Orthworm. Liquidation allows me to have a better offensive hit against Sneasler while also threatening Deoxys. And I'm also running Toxic and Haze for utility, the former to spread status and wear down Grumm's team, especially Orthworm if it Tera's away from Steel, while Haze in combination with Intimidate and her red card should hopefully check Sneasler, wipe out its boosts, and even remove Unburden from the equation entirely. Of course, what is Amity without her Batata? And if Grumm's going to potentially pull Unburden shenanigans, then I might as well respond in kind. You guessed it, Loose is up next, and I'm finally pulling Grassy Seed Unburden tactics. I debated going Psychic Seed, but thought better of it in case Grumm decides not to bring in Indeedee and make this a terrain battle. Fairly standard fare here for this kind of Holucha. CC, Acrobatics once I pop the seeds, SD to boost up. Loose is also going Tera Electric again with Tera Blast to better threaten Volcanion before it potentially becomes a problem. And I'm running Jolly with just enough speed to outrun an Adamant Max Speed Sneasler in an Unburden race, hopefully forcing Grumm to consider going Jolly for a little less power himself, and setting up Loose to hopefully be the guiding light towards a win for us. On the subject of Grumm's Psychic Terrain, I actually have a Witch who can take full advantage of it, and turn the tables on him if he does choose to bring it. So let's talk about our favorite illusionist, Gus. Gus is rocking Nasty Plot this week for maximum shenanigans, with max defense to be able to better deal with the likes of Sneasler and Deoxys if need be. Gus's normal typing makes him immune to potential Poltergeist from Bramblegast, which also goes a long way. Hyper Voice's powerful normal stab that hits everything barring the Tumbleweed. Energy Ball gives me a means to hit Tinglu and Deoxys that also takes advantage of my own terrain. And if Grumm does happen to bring his, I'm bringing Expanding Force to turn his terrain into my own nuke. And at +2, there is very little Grumm has that can survive Gus's tricks. And even if he doesn't bring Psychic Terrain, Expanding Force is still a very solid Psychic stab to cause a lot of problems for Grumm defensively. Now, all of that is well and good. but Volcanion is still a giant problem with its natural bulk, and a spec set could still wipe us out if I don't respect it. So my answer to that is none other than Ida the Owl Lady. Maybe that sounds crazy to you, but with max special bulk and an assault vest, Slacking is never to get KO'd by any of Volcanion's attacks and can immediately turn around and threaten it. In fact, I'd almost be hoping for a Steam Eruption burn so Facade can do double damage and really give Grumm cause for concern. Beyond that, I have Knockoff for utility and a means of addressing Bramblegast, Hammer Arm to threaten Orthworm prior to Tera, and High Horsepower to threaten Volcanion if he doesn't burn me, as well as Deoxys. Despite Truant, Ida has all the tools she needs to shut down one of Grumm's biggest threats to me and turn the tables in a pinch. And I plan on making the most of it. Of course, I've talked a lot about bringing my own terrain, so I suppose it's only right that we finally talk about Willow. Nothing too fancy here. In fact, it's the same attacks I ran last week, although Willow is definitely a lot more offensive-minded this week. While giving up some speed means that I'm slower than a max speed or speed creeping Indeedee, that actually works out for me if they both hit the field at the same time, as my terrain will go up last and be the one that stays. Tatsugiri was Rillaboom's speed benchmark that made the most sense to me while keeping that in mind, and I also have boots to avoid any hazards Grumm might try to set up, since Willow will ideally be pivoting around and helping to set up her friends for success, while still having the power necessary to punch a few holes in Grumm's team if I need her to. Last but not least, I'm electing to give King another shot after how disastrous his big debut was supposed to be last week. If I can get Zamazenta-Crowned set up, Grumm will actually struggle to take him down, especially since Dauntless Shield and a few Iron Defense boosts help mitigate the potential damage Sneasler can do. His Steel typing makes him immune to Dire Claw, and Body Press in general can cause a lot of damage in a short amount of time. For Bramblegast and a potential Tera Ghost Orthworm, I'm also packing Crunch. And in case Sneasler or even an Iron Defense or Coil Orthworm starts becoming a potential problem, I packed Roar this time to avoid the issues we faced last week, especially as another means of erasing Unburden from Sneasler if it triggers. On that note, King benchmark for Jolly Max Speed Sneasler without Unburden, so once that's no longer an issue, Sneasler should become manageable for the mighty, yet adorable, King of Demons. That's the magical firepower we're packing for Week 4 of UNPL Season 6. I have high hopes for this plan to hopefully get us back in the win column, because we could certainly use it after the mess that last week was. Will our prayers to the Titan be answered? Does Grumm have some plans of his own to break the tie between us in what could be our final game against one another for all I know, pending what the future holds? I guess we'll find out when it's battle time. Alright, it is battle time! Let's see if we can hopefully bounce back from what happened last week. So we have Bramblegast, we have Tinglu, Volcanion, Orthworm, which he had told me is Tera Electric, Deoxys, and Sneasler. So, right off the bat, no Indeedee, which I guess isn't that much of a surprise in hindsight. No Oricorio's a little surprising. I would have figured he would have tried to throw that at me. But that is fine all the same. I believe Willow is going to be my lead. That is the play. I can get my terrain up right away. On anything that's not Sneasler or potentially Deoxys, I can pretty much U-turn out pretty freely, I think. Yeah, I think that's the play. We're going to go from there. Alright. So, good luck, have fun, Grumm. Make sure you guys go check out his side of the battle. Give him a like and a sub. He definitely deserves it for the incredible content he creates. And let's see how this game plays out as he just leads with the Orthworm. So, right away, somehow that does not surprise me. I was going to U-turn, but now I'm wondering if I just knock off. I mean, his hazards would be going up either way. It's just a matter of what do I want to put right in front of this thing right away. I think I'm just going to knock off, get rid of whatever item this thing has. Just make my life much easier on that regard. Leftovers. Yep, that does not surprise me as he sets some spikes. Alrighty, that is perfectly fine with me. I'm gonna go ahead and U-turn out, get some chip on this thing. And I honestly feel like maybe just going straight to King is the play. Because there's not a lot he could really do from that point if I start getting set up with King early. The spike would be a problem, but if I come in on only one layer, it's fine, I can handle it. Lucha is not bothered by it until I Tera. So yeah, I think we can potentially make this work. Alternatively, I could just go no, I need Ida for Volcanion. And it feels too early to potentially pop Lucha. So yeah, I think we're just gonna go straight into King. And just start going from here. I will get my Dauntless Shield, so that is a +1 defense right out of the gate. The spike is fine because I have the grassy terrain to get around it. As he coils! So he is the coil set, despite the spike. That is fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and Iron Defense. I have no reason not to, honestly. I could definitely outboost this thing and start threatening it. See how he wants to respond. I wonder if he has phasing on this thing. Coil with phasing, that would be interesting. Does Orthworm even get a phasing move? Not sure if it does, actually. It might. I mean, I know Grumm loves his Orthworm, but I haven't actually faced it against him. He's going to Tera now, which is perfectly fine with me. So he's Tera Electric. Curious what the Tera Electric's for, now that I think about it. As I'm just going to go ahead and set up an Iron Defense, get up to +3. As he body presses now, I will eat that. That is perfectly fine. And I'm just going to go ahead and set up another one. I've got little reason not to go to +5, honestly. And just go from here. Because yeah, King is pretty much in a really good spot right now. So we are at +5. I know I can't Oko this thing because he doesn't have the weakness anymore. He's going to go ahead and coil up. That is perfectly fine, though. That is more recovery for King, which I will gladly take. Still have my terrain for at least one more turn. And I'm just going to go ahead and body press now. Get some damage off on this thing. I might even be able to two-shot it, honestly, pending his physical bulk. Worst case scenario, I probably could also just roar this thing out, but I don't know. I feel like I can beat him in a body press battle at this point, depending on how physically invested he is. I would think he might be a more specially invested worm. Nope, he is definitely more physically invested. That confirms that. So I am just going to go ahead and roar this thing out then, get rid of its boosts. If he wants to just go ahead and, if he wants to go ahead and coil up again, he can be my guest. But King is not in a bad spot right now, all things considered. Maybe if I were to roar him out into Deoxys, that could be a problem. But he's going to set up another layer of spikes, which is fine. I roar this thing out and get rid of it, so it has no more boosts. and we can go from here. Because Volcanion, I immediately threaten with a huge body press. Bramblegast, I can attack with Coil. Speaking of Bramblegast. Yeah, this thing does not want to eat a crunch right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and go straight for that. I always appreciate the wrestling nicknames Grumm goes with, as a fellow wrestling fan myself. Go ahead and crunch for some big damage as you proceed to... Red card! Please do not send me out into Overquill. Slacking. I will take that. I will take that. Okay. Credit where credit is due. That was not a bad play there. Still, nothing really wants to eat a knockoff right now, so I'm going to go ahead and go for it. Even at -1. Because it'll still get big damage off on something. As he just spins to get a speed boost. Well, I mean, this thing doesn't have an item anymore, but that is still quite a lot of damage. I can imagine you going maybe for... That's the trick, isn't it? Trying to figure out what to do about you now. An Intimidate from Amity would be nice, but I really want to save that red card for Sneasler. Do I just go Gus? That's a tricky one. I'm just gonna go into Willow. Probably a bad play, but it's fine. We can find a way to make it work. We can find a way to make this work. I think you're gonna Rapid Spin again. That is fine. You probably Strength Sap here. I'm gonna go ahead and knock off anyway. Just because it should still do a good chunk to you. Yep, there's the Strength Sap. Oh, this Bramblegast is gonna be annoying. It's fine, though. It's fine. This knockoff should still do a decent chunk. He's definitely trying to outspeed my Lucha, but... I feel like there's only so far he can really go with this. Before I get some sort of opening on it. He Shadow Sneaks, which is fine. I take that. I go ahead and hit another knockoff. So after that, it's about 25%. Grassy Glide wouldn't kill, I don't think, pending his investment. But it still puts this thing really low, so I'm going to go for it anyway. Just for the Strength Sap. So he has Shadow Sneak. Definitely good tech for Lucha. I guess that's the question now of where we go from here. I feel like I could U-turn. Honestly. Maybe go into Farigiraf. I've got one more turn of terrain, so you know what? That play actually makes sense to me. I'm going to U-turn out as he switches now. Alright. That is fine. Into the Orthworm. Fair enough. Now U-turn out on you. And I think I am just going to go ahead and go into Gus. Because I can still get some terrain recovery on this last turn. I can get recovery off my leftovers. I can nasty plot up. And then we can start threatening this Orthworm. So, him not bringing Psychic Terrain is interesting, but that's fine. I can work around that. I mean, Expanding Force is kind of a catch-all anyway, just in case. I mean, it's still a base 80 power Psychic move, so it should still do a ton of damage. And I should still be able to threaten this Orthworm pretty nicely. Gus should actually not be in a bad spot right now against this thing, especially since he is Terra'd. So he does not resist either Expanding Force or Hyper Voice anymore. So, in theory, we can Nasty Plot up. He's going to set up a third layer of spikes. Which is absolutely fine because of the Nasty Plot. I think Gus is actually in an extremely good spot right now. So I will definitely get Leftovers Recovery. He does not have his Leftovers anymore, so whatever chip is still on him is going to linger. And I'm just going to go ahead and fire off a Hyper Voice. It should take out this Orthworm. And whatever he sends, the only thing he could send in that would want to take it is Bramblegast. But I can handle Bramblegast. I don't think that thing takes an Expanding Force after the fact. So I'm perfectly content with Hyper Voicing right now. He's going to withdraw into the Bramblegast. Nope, into the Ting-Lu. Which is fine, it is still not going to appreciate this Hyper Voice. Do I dare? Interesting, he is not lefties on this thing. You know, Whirlwind would not surprise me given he has completely spike stacked me. So I'm actually fine just going for Energy Ball and getting the damage. That is nice damage on this thing. Are you going to Whirlwind me? No. Lash Out. Oof, that does a ton. But it is fine because I just Energy Ball again, and that gets rid of Ting-Lu. Orthworm wouldn't appreciate it. Sneasler could take it, but I guess that depends on what kind of Sneasler he is. It's going to be interesting seeing how he responds to this, because Ting-Lu definitely does not eat another one, and knowing Gus outspeeds it is actually really nice. Getting Ting-Lu off the board would kind of help a bit. I mean, against what I brought, I feel like Ting-Lu's not the biggest problem in the world, depending on what else he has that I may not be seeing. But I mean, all due respect to Grumm, I guess that's kind of the story of Lex Luger, isn't it? As Farigarath is going to go ahead and take out Ting-Lu. So that is Ting-Lu gone. Gus is going to get leftovers, which is nice. So I'm pretty sure I can deal with Orthworm if it comes back in. That is the Sneasler. So, interesting. What are you? I'm at 247 right now. If you're a Scarf set, I'm out of range of a close combat if you're Jolly. Adamant, you'd have to get max possible roll. I'm honestly fine just going Expanding Force here. Seeing what he wants to do. He does close combat, which does... It does KO me, and I did not see a crit. Interesting. Are you banded? Because with my spread, banded's the only thing that makes sense to actually KO me there. Interesting. Very interesting. Banded Sneasler would be very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and go into Amity. Just to get the Intimidate off. And then try to go from here. I take Spikes, that is fine. Getting the Intimidate off on this thing is nice. I can red card it out, which is always appreciated. Yeah, the fact he went straight for close combat and KO'd me, this thing has to be banded. Because I don't think he should have been able to KO my Sneasler. Well, unless he is adamant something else and got a max roll. I'm gonna Liquidation. As he does switch. Which is completely fair. Into the Orthworm, which is fine. I can get a Liquidation off on this thing. Chip away at it. And I'm going to go ahead and Toxic him. Because I have no reason not to. It'll help deal with this thing immensely, which will certainly be appreciated. I should be able to take a Body Press from him. If he coils up, then that's fine, because I put this thing on a timer. Yeah, you tearing away from Steel it helped me out in this case, so I will take that, as he does in fact coil up. Which is perfectly fine with me. I could just haze that away, honestly. Part of me wants to, actually. I mean, I could. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and haze the boost away. It'll be fine. If I lose my red card, so be it. I can still preserve Amity for Intimidates later. Depending what, I still take that. My red card's gonna get rid of this thing, which is nice. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that Sneasler for sure. As Brambleghast comes back in now. Alrighty. I can imagine... I want to say you... Yeah, I want to say you Strength Stab me? I'm gonna go ahead and Crunch. I can take whatever you want to throw at me. I'm not afraid of Shadow Sneak. I can take a Power Whip. You do not appreciate a Crunch, even if you Strength Sap. So we can make this work. If you want to switch into something else, be my guest. Alright, you are going to Strength Sap. That is fair. So, this Crunch should still do a good chunk to you. Big chunk indeed. I'm just going to go ahead and Crunch again. I don't think it'll OHKO, depending on how much you get back from another Strength Sap. But I can still chip away at something if you want to switch it in. And then I can go from there. Yeah, that Sneasler is a curious case indeed. I need to keep my eyes on it. He's going to go ahead and switch out. Into what? Back into the Orthworm. Yeah, that does not surprise me, but still, I can get some chip off with this Crunch. Toxic will start racking up more from there. And from this point, I believe my play... Did I go back into Willow? Yeah, I'm going to go back into Willow. Preserve Amity. Just because I could still use that Intimidate for later. Him spike stacking me kind of sucks, but I think I can work my way around it if I play my cards right. Are you going to coil up on me? Nope, you go straight for the Heavy Slam. Okay, so I know your last move now. Which is perfectly fine with me. As Toxic is going to rack up. I want to Grassy Glide you. But I also want to U-turn out because I feel you're going to switch. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and U-turn. It's more chip off on this thing. As for what I do from here... That becomes the conundrum, doesn't it? That becomes the conundrum. I am really tempted to just go straight into loose now. I'm gonna go into king. This might be a misplay, but I think we can make this work. As he does go for the body press, and he does take out king. Dang it. Okay, so that definitely sucks. I'm just gonna go back into Willow. And I'm just gonna go ahead and U-turn again. I pick you off. I chip away whatever wants to come in. Yep, he's gonna give me Orthworm. I am really curious about that Sneasler. That Sneasler is starting to... Yeah, sitting in the back of my head, that Sneasler is actually kind of, sticking in my craw right now. Because I would love to be able to just go into loose right... You know what? I'm gonna go into loose. We're just gonna pull the trigger on this right now. Maybe this is a mistake, but we are going to make this happen. So that is a defense boost. I mean, that should help me be able to handle Sneasler. If he is unburdened Sneasler and he catches me on that, good on him. He goes into Volcanion. So this is where things get curious now. I'm going to Tera and I'm going to go for the Tera Blast. No hesitation here, because I don't know what this Volcanion is, and I would rather not, I mean, I've already activated Unburden, so we might as well just go ahead and go full steam ahead here. If he has Specs, he definitely takes me out. If he is more of a bulky Assault Vest set, if he doesn't have any sort of boosting item, then Steam Eruption's a roll. I'm just going to go ahead and hit this thing hard with a Tera Blast. You are bulky. And you Steam Eruption. And I do live it. So I could have SD'd there. Which in retrospect sucks. Because I probably could have potentially taken this thing out. But we're just going to go for the Tera Blast again. I've already committed to this. Might as well just roll the dice. Still big damage off on this thing, though. I will definitely take that. This is going to pick me off with a Flamethrower. Alrighty. So, here is the thing. Ida was meant to handle this thing, but I don't know how well I do that potentially. I feel like Willow's my play here. I'll end up setting my terrain back up, which is fine. I should be able to outrun you. You're under 25%. But you are bulky. I'm going to go ahead and go for a high horsepower. I know this has a risk of missing, which would definitely hurt right now. But I'm willing to make that gamble just to be absolutely sure, because you definitely seem more... Based on the damage Luce was doing, you look fairly bulky. So I don't know if a Grassy Glide, even in terrain, would pick you off, even at about 25%. Alright, we're gonna get rid of you. So that is Volcanion gone. which kind of sort of defeats the purpose for Ida being here. Well, I guess it also kind of depends on Deoxys, because Deoxys is still... This game is very much still not in my favor. Let me guess. You were unburdened the whole time. No, you were not. I think you actually are banded then. Which would definitely explain the KO on, Yeah, I feel like you actually are banded. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw Amity at you. Just so I can get the Intimidate. I will probably drop to a close combat, but that is fine. Because getting this Intimidate is still nice. You do, in fact, close combat, which does pick off Amity. Alright. That is fine. Maybe, kind of, sort of. Let's see here. I'm gonna go into Willow. Just because at -1, I should be able to take you a banded close combat unless you're adamant. And even adamant would be a roll. We're gonna high horsepower. You're probably gonna switch to get rid of the, just to get rid of the Intimidate. Brambleghast is probably gonna come back in. Yep. Alright. Yep, this game is definitely a lost cause, so this season is already starting to fall apart on me, unfortunately. It's fine, though. It is what it is. I'm still trying to have fun out here. We're still trying to make things work. I'm gonna go ahead and Grassy Glide you to get rid of you. Make this game a little closer, I guess. That is pretty much the best I can do at this point. Unless... Well, I mean, even if you go into Sneasler at this point. Endure! Interesting. I wonder if you're trying to run out my terrain at this point. I mean, this will be my last turn of it, but that's still fine. Because I can take a Shadow Sneak. And we can kind of go from here, I guess. Try to see if we can somehow still miraculously pull this back, because Willow is doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now in trying to somehow salvage this game. Because barring a fluke, I don't think Ida's going to be too much help, unfortunately. So, I would imagine Sneasler comes back in here. Yep. Yeah, the only way I live a close combat is if you get the absolute lowest roll, and that's assuming you're Jolly. So I'm gonna go into Ida just to get my terrain back. If you somehow... I mean, you could go Dire Claw, which... I mean, after Spike should take Ida out, I would imagine. You just close combat, that is fine. So it is all on the shoulders of Willow. Which kind of sucks, not gonna lie, but I mean, maybe by some miracle. I'm gonna go ahead and go for the high horsepower. I see no point to Grassy Gliding. And that is going to do it, yep. Did not even get to see the Deoxys. So you were probably adamant. That would make sense. That is a tough loss to swallow. That's a tough pill to swallow. I feel like there are some spots I definitely could have played better and just didn't. But that is the game we play, unfortunately. Still, GG, Grumm. Always a pleasure to play you, and again, I really hope you reconsider your stance on leaving the league if you don't win a championship, because I would really hate to watch you walk away from this league, even over a bit. That's not something I want to start considering right about now, given how the season's been going. Anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching. I have been Ruppy, and my Columbus Swoo, Owl House Edition, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.